Hey, what's up?
Hello.
What's up, guys?
How was your week, Joe?
Um, Busy. I had another travel weekend for the Labor Day weekend. Had a couple buddies who going through some stuff and wanted to get out of town, so I ended up we drove all the way to Philadelphia for a day because Pennsylvania is on the no quarantine list for Chicago, so we could go there and come back. So, have you ever been to Philly
Yeah, but when I was young.
when you were young?
Yeah.
I liked it a lot. Yeah, we only had one day to pack it all in, but I enjoyed it quite a bit. Got to see all over the town. When I visit a place, though, I'm kind of in soccer mode, mom, where I just want to do all the tours of like the famous places. I'm not hanging out and partying or anything.
Cheesesteak?
Had one. We arrived there Saturday night, so I had one at Geno's,
Yeah.
and then Sunday night we went to Pat's, which is the one right next door. So. I don't know. I have mixed reviews about the cheesesteak. I can definitely see it has a common ancestor with the Italian beef sandwich, which I'm more of a fan of here in Chicago. But I don't know. I just can't get past the cheese whiz. I can't. That is, I've grown out of that taste for it, but I definitely enjoyed it more when I put provolone on it. What are your thoughts
But
on the Philly cheesesteak?
I love them.
Yeah.
I'm not a snob like you, but that's okay.
Well, some of us, have to refine our palate. Others just stay where they're at. That's fine.
I never had a cheesesteak. So what does it have? Yellow cheese on top?
So you got options. The traditional way, so imagine an Italian beef, right? But instead of putting like mozzarella or provolone or something respectable, they put cheese whiz, literally cheese whiz, or you can have American cheese or provolone in it, and then they put grilled onions in it too. So um, it's just odd. It's just a different like delivery for the same kind of sandwich. So I think it's like a traditional Italian dish or like a lunch or whatever. But yeah, the it takes a left turn with the cheese whiz for me, and it's not bad. So the second day I did it just with the provolone, and it really tasted good. But again, I'm kind of making it into a pseudo Italian beef sandwich at that point. I'm not having it the traditional way. But it was definitely worth checking out. And it's definitely a cool location. I definitely dug it a lot.
So
Good.
the bread is like it's like Italian bread.
Yeah, it's like a French bread or like it's a kind of a robust, sandwich bread, split down the middle the exact same way, loaded up. They don't dip it though in the sauce. Um, so like I said, it's just subtle differences. It's probably regional, but I don't know of any other besides Philly and Chicago that have a similar kind of a beef sandwich. I mean, they call it steak, but it's really that shaved beef, the exact same kind of thing that we do. Maybe the seasonings are a little bit different, but uh, I don't know. Does Cleveland have anything like that?
Well, I'm not a big Italian beef guy, even though, Johnny's was where I lived near Johnny's, which was like the best. That was good. Um, Now, Cleveland has their own thing. Pretty much chili dogs is really popular in Cleveland, which is great. Like, that's the one thing I, I miss the hot dogs in Cleveland, believe it or not, compared to Chicago's dogs are okay, but they're like it's a hot dog, and they put a lot of stuff on the dogs out here. I get it, but it's a hot dog. At least the Italian beef is, does have some flavoring and spices and so on. But yeah, I when I go to Cleveland, I go to Mr. Heroes for their Roman burger. It's the best I've ever had anywhere. It's phenomenal, and every day I'm in Cleveland, I have a Roman burger. So when I took Kevin back, he had a Roman burger. When I took another one of my friends, Jim, back, everybody I've taken to Cleveland has had, and they love them. So that's my thing. But yeah. So I'm glad you went. It's cool. Long ride though.
Oh man, it was killer. I mean, fortunately, I was able to split up the ride with the other guys, but that is definitely at my limit. Like, we ended up probably, I mean, with stops and everything, it was like 12 to 15 hours. Um, but it's always, like I said, been a place I wanted to check out. I got to go there. I was once there just overnight, and got a glimpse of it. But so I was like, I really want to kind of delve into it a little bit more. I always like checking out other urban areas.
City, man. You weren't far from Atlantic City.
Well, we had one day, so like, it was just, and I don't remember if, yeah, well, we made it into New Jersey just briefly. So we took the they have like a subway system that actually goes across the Ben Franklin Bridge. So we went across to New Jersey into Camden, and that was eye-opening. That was definitely kind of a depressed area, and I was definitely immediately keying into like, well, okay, what do we do here? I need to pay attention to my surroundings very much so because it was definitely very sketchy, and actually being with two other guys, um, even though there was kind of strength in numbers, these guys, I didn't necessarily put it in them to be either to be able to run away or able to defend themselves very well. So it kind of changed my mind frame of like, well, how do I deal with having other guys in my party? Like if we were to get accosted or mugged or whatever, now I have to be thinking about, well, how are they going to react? You know,
You didn't have to worry about it. I mean, look at you. Look with your attitude, no way. I mean, all you would have done is like you're doing now. Hey, Philadelphia, I can't stand your cheesesteaks. Hey, Camden, this is a pretty sketchy area. Who would want to beat you up for that? I don't know. Boy, you're awful positive today, Joe. What's with this bashing of your trip? My God. I don't get it.
you should definitely work for the news media. You've got a good spin on things.
Because I don't buy into that you don't like cheesesteak. You think it's bad? No, the cheesesteak is good, and there's nothing wrong with New Jersey. I've been there many times. A lot of places in Jersey. You got to get out of the suburbs, man. You're getting what you're doing now is you're getting tunnel vision. Okay, you're getting very very tunnel vision.
Well, to be clear to all our fans in Philadelphia, I actually like the city quite a bit. For what little I saw of it. Like I said, spent probably we were up at like 6 or 7 in the morning. I spent the whole day just walking around, checking everything out. We as many neighborhoods as I could. I love to just be out in the foot. We had this great tour guide who he was a middle school teacher. He did they do like a history tour because of all the things that happened, historically there. And he takes you on a walking tour. And the guy had a real passion for the history and of the city. It's just a fascinating place. So actually, contrary to the hostile portrayal that Tony gave me, I actually thought that'd be a town where I'd want to like, stay for a year or whatever. One of my fantasies is like a certain point in my life to be able to kind of stay in different places and regions for like a year or two, really to learn it. Because when you visit a place, you really don't know it. You just get glimpses. You really don't know the good places to eat. I mean, you kind of go based off of lists that you find or whatever, but you don't know the place intimately well. And so there's just like all these different regions that I'd love to travel. And that'd be one, actually. That'd be like a town where I'd want to spend a year or two just soaking it in and learning it. Like I was at, probably several weeks ago, we were over in Denver and I would want to do it there too. There's just so much to learn at all these places, so much history and things to pick up that you only really get a taste of it when you visit these places. So, but that's definitely one that would be on the list to go back to.
Well, eat bologna sandwiches. You can't go wrong with bologna. Maybe their bologna sandwich will be up to your standards. I don't know. Philadelphia has a tremendous history with this country. Obviously, we don't need to get into that, but all of the East Coast, up and down the Eastern Seaboard, is just jammed with historical sites or just presence. And yeah, it's interesting. It's cool. But again, I've always said this: most people live in a town, let's say like Chicago, or in the suburbs of it, or the general area, and they don't even know the history of Chicago, or they don't want to go see Chicago, or this part or that part. How many North Siders know the South Side intimately? Very few. Unless they went to school or worked on the South Side or something, and vice versa. So, yeah, I remember telling somebody, I don't want to mention his name in case he watches this podcast, a friend of mine, but he'll probably know when I give it away. He's like every year, he would go to Mexico. I said, why don't you just take your wife downtown Chicago? You got beautiful beaches, you got opulence. I'll even drive you down there, and just stay for a week. Don't take your vehicle and just do the town and do it right. Go to the show, State Theater or Oriental Theater or wherever you have, whatever have you. And, stay at a nicer, hotel downtown and, get on the sightseeing buses and go to the museums. And there's a lot. People travel from all over the world to come to Chicago. And it beguiles me that people that live here really don't take advantage of it, you know. But I've been to Chicago so many times, you know, like tours. I give tours to people, you know, I'll show them around, or we'll take the river tour and, you know, the boat, and that's all nice. So how are like with you, Nico, when you go out in like your area, you know, you see the different corn stalks and probably like chickens and stuff,
Yeah, some cows and
cows.
hogs.
Well, we can, yeah, you know,
There's a lot to see out here.
oh yeah.
They don't call it the crossroads of America for nothing.
Yes. They call Ohio, I don't know if they still do, but it was the heart of it all. And Cleveland was the best location in the nation. So, not the mistake by the lake, like a lot of people like to say. It was the best location in the nation. Yeah. It's kind of cool. So,
And it's very ethnically diverse out here.
wow. Are you? I'm shocked to hear that. You're being facetious, I think.
Yeah.
They have white people and they have off-white people, slightly off-white.
Said cows. Yeah, well, it's interesting. So, hey, I got an email last night, or I saw it this morning. I don't know exactly when it was sent, late last night. I couldn't quite understand all of it, but some guy, and, you know, talking about, I mean, if I interpreted it correctly, it was kind of difficult for me to actually grasp his question. I tried to respond to it, and I'll respond to it here. He says, I talk a lot about old time strongmen and how that training would pertain to hooks. That part kind of threw me because it really doesn't. Hooks are it's a technique. And I basically told him, and like I tell a lot of people, don't get so caught up in the ancient past. Exercise science has come leaps and bounds. We are far more knowledgeable, far more fit, especially when it comes to diet, than you know, past times. I mean, and that doesn't mean to don't follow their training protocols. Some of them are very, you know, they're good, but we've come a long way. So, you know, try to make a blend out of it. You know, take some of the old training, use some of the new training. But you know, I don't like to burst people's bubbles, but a lot of the old time strongmen from the late 1800s, early 1900s and stuff, some of them were frauds. You know, the lifts were not, you know, legitimate. Okay, they were what's the word I'm looking for? You got to help me here because I didn't sleep much. Exaggerated and so on, and this and that. Some of them were legitimately strong, no question about it. But we're living in an era now that, you know, we got some beasts walking around the planet here that can do some incredible things. But balance your training. I told this guy, balance it mentally and physically, as well as, you know, your cardio and your explosiveness and what have you. You know, where we can be, you know, I think generally we're far more fit than the times past. And maybe some people, like I've discussed this before, they think the old timers had a better work ethic. You know, that's an individual thing. There's nothing across the board, but you can work on your own work ethic. Get inspired to work out. Take what you can from the past and add what you have today, and you know, try to come out farther ahead than when you started. So I just wanted to throw that out there, and because I don't know what prompted this gentleman to write me. He's never written me before, but and that's about all I'll discuss on that email, because really that was all there was. You know, he just had that question, and I probably should do that every week. I should probably answer an email question publicly like this and share it. Through the years, I've had thousands and thousands of email questions, and some of them were very, very good. You know, others were just, you know, inquisitive, you know, asking basic questions. But my mantra has always been, what do you want to do with your life? Do you want to become the strongest man in the world? Do you want to become the toughest man in the world? The fastest man in the world, or the fittest man in the world? You know, there's a lot of recipes, just like there are for food. There's a lot of recipes for your overall fitness and wellness.
Do you have like a percentage in mind? Like, let's say you want to be an effective fighter. This is kind of a fight oriented podcast. Like, do you have like a mix in your mind, like how many days a week or anything like that? Or what, or do you try and hit a certain level and then say, okay, now I need to focus on other aspects? Is there a formula, or is it kind of you have to customize?
You do customize, and that's a good question, because if you were just born out of the crib, then that's one thing. But most people come to train, not with just me, but with anybody, and they already have they brought their history with them. So, for example, some guy may come and he's already very strong because of his previous training, or he's very fit. He's got a lot of energy or endurance. Okay, so yeah, and generally speaking, you have to be customized, but there are points of diminishing returns. We've discussed this before. I've trained some incredibly strong men that could power lift prodigious amounts, and it gets to the point where it's now the point of no return, or it's diminishing returns, I should say. You have to spend so many hours training to maintain that kind of strength that it takes away from your fighting ability. Also, you want to make sure that your body is lithe, that you're not so heavily muscled that you're slow or that you gas out. So you do have to have a balance. So everyone is an individual. There's no one size fits all. But I have my own personal fitness standards, that work for me. And I try to have some overkill naturally. But yeah, you need to have a balance of physical strength, endurance, flexibility, and explosivity. You just try to be balanced, well balanced. And when you look at like a decathlete, okay, they like to call those guys the gold medalist, the world's greatest athlete. Well, they're fit, but a lot of what they're doing is technique oriented. Their specific sport in the decathlon is there's a lot of technique involved. So what we're dealing with here is just an overall sense of general well-being. Okay, you're not really necessarily working technique tremendously. Yes, there are techniques to when you bench or something like that. I get it, but we're not trying to develop that. It's like throwing a javelin or throwing a discus or high jumping. Those are you got to really work on those techniques. With us, the technique is the fighting portion of it. That's where all your time should be spent, with working on your technique. So what I'm getting at is, you're not trying to necessarily run the 100 meters and 10 something as a decathlete would. You're just trying to run it quicker, better, more efficient than you are right now. Everything is to make you a better fighter. And I have to judge everybody individually. Okay. So if somebody would join, like say the Tri-C program now, I'll assess them visually on a video, ask them, maybe I'll have to ask them a few questions, if not right away down the line. And we're going to get an overall picture here where he wants to go, where I think his strong suit should be going. And then we work on a program to get him there.
Tony, I got a question.
Sure.
What would you say to the guy that's like never had any training? Let's say he's like middle-aged. Okay, never trained before, out of shape, never did any self-defense techniques, nothing. How would you recommend a person like that get started? Because now they want to put an importance on fitness and self-defense. What would you say to them?
Hello, my name's Tony. Say, diet. Their diet. Get them going. Get going with the proper diet. Okay. If they're overweight, let's get them to lose weight. Every workout becomes much easier when you're not carrying excessive baggage. So diet is very important. And, you know, how many instructors tell you to do that? You know, you need to do that. You need to get your diet going. Secondly, you need to have the proper nutrition to build muscle or to get you your endurance to get you through the workouts. So diet is very important. The next thing would be making sure that the guy doesn't overtrain, because even experienced athletes tend to do that. You get burned out, and you know nothing positive comes from overtraining. Okay, it's like running a car at the red line. If the RPM is too high, you're gonna cause an issue. So, and as far as technique, once again, I have to assess this person. If he's had zero training, well, that in a way says, okay, well, he doesn't have any bad habits and prejudices that I have to overcome. Okay, like, you know, my previous instructor told me to do this. You know, that's difficult on a new instructor when you know that the previous instructor was dead wrong, you know, or just wasn't, you know, very hip to things. You have to overcome that as well. So many times starting someone with a clean slate, this guy, the middle-aged guy that you're talking about, can actually make quicker gains than somebody who's maybe 25, 30 years old, who's been with a dog for 2 or 3 years as an instructor. And now you got to overcome all of that. So I would give them a lot of inspiration, and I would say, this is something that we can do together. You know, this is not me here. Here's the book. Go ahead, read it. Come back to me when you're done. No, you hold their hand in essence, and you walk them through it every step of the way, and give them positive reassurance, but also give them. I'm a realist, so I'm never going to blow smoke up somebody's butt. I'm going to let them know, hey, you know, you're slacking here, you know, or you could do this a little better, or we got to keep repeating over and over. Keep your elbows in, keep your head down, or whatever. So, yeah, those are some of my favorite people to work with. It's just it's like an artist who has this raw mold, and you can just, you know, pound of flesh or clay, and you can just form it, you know. Whereas when you get a stud athlete, sometimes there's just a lot of bad things that they, you know, habits that they've done that you got to kind of have them unlearn. And it's difficult. So, any other questions?
What about just general minimums? So obviously there's a lot of dimensions you have to work physically. You know, you have to work your endurance, your explosiveness, your strength. And, you know, if you have an obvious weakness, you focus on that. But if you're not quite sure, it's like, well, you know, at a minimum, you should be able to get up and run 3 to 4 miles and X amount of, like, you know, these are the kind of the minimums that I think, you know, would be competent for self-defense or for a fighter. Obviously, you can always get better, but what are like, if you're doing well in one, say, oh, I need to get my other one up higher.
Yeah, I've seen those charts for, you know, military, Navy SEALs and all of this. And to me, they're not up to my standards. I would want you if you're going to be an elite athlete, you got to go way, way beyond that stuff. But for the average Joe, you know, there's plenty of, you know, again, it depends on how much does this person weigh? How old is this person? You know, all of that factors in. A guy who's 250 pounds is not going to be able to run 3 miles in the same time that a guy who weighs 150 pounds. Okay. So I don't like giving specifics because it can demoralize someone, or it may not challenge someone else. So if I say you should run a 5-minute mile, well, what if a kid that's a senior in high school or just got out of high school who ran cross country or was a miler in high school, and he's running, you know, 4:10s. He'd be like, well, Jesus, I'm way ahead of the curve. No. So I'm very cautious on what I say, you know, because people sometimes just want to hear what they want to hear. And also, like I said, if the guy's 300 pounds and he's got to run a 500 or 5-minute mile, that could just be daunting. It could be like hopeless. He's like, I'll never get there, you know? So I tend to try to avoid that. I want to bring the best out of you. And there's no athlete that's ever lived that can do it all. Okay. So some guys may have the propensity just to be strong, stronger than they are fast or quick. My job is to make your quickness, whatever your level is at now, to try to make it improved over time. And that can be. So you want to balance it out. Um, I had my own personal goals that I wanted to achieve, and I achieved them all fit from a physical standpoint for the most part. Maybe there's something that I didn't do that I regret or whatever didn't happen, but I can't think right now. Pretty much did everything I wanted to do, or I was damn close enough. So if I can do it, so can anyone else. That's just the thing. That's the most important thing, is to try to let everybody know that, if you have the right guidance and, you have that firm belief and that burning desire to do it, you'll get it done. Again, if you have the proper mentor or coach. It's daunting to have to do it by yourself. And I did a lot of this stuff by myself, and it was difficult. Because I was going into no man's land. I was going into an area that very few people, certainly no one else I knew around, was going into. So, but it can be done. It sure can. But off the record, you do have to be able to do, you should be able to do 500 squats. You should be able to do 100 push-ups. You should be able to do, a mile in, under 6 minutes, or run 3 miles, and certainly under 20 minutes. I mean, these are not anything to win a gold medal over, but these are some standards that you need to, do. And you should probably be able to handle a 6 mile run, regardless of the time, just like a jog. And you'll know, anything you can do to improve your strength is a bonus. So that's how I look at it.
Hey, Tony, do you got any recommendations for training kids? Like, for example, with my son, I have a hard time getting him to be interested in doing any kind of physical fitness. And now he's very athletic, and if I put him in a room full of kids, he would spar and do live grappling all day and just have a blast. But if I try to make him focus on, running a mile for time or doing push-ups and sit-ups, he's just not interested at all. Do you have any recommendations
Well,
for that?
this is not personal to your son, so because I don't know him, but I'll just use this as an example. When you're the big fish in the little pond, things come easy, and you don't want to have to train. The biggest motivation is to be around superior athletes, kids that can spank your son, so to speak. They can just roll him over, and that will inspire him. Wow, this kid, this is. Let me pretend I'm speaking as your son. Wow, this boy just, manhandled me, man. I couldn't do anything. That might be what what inspires him. And again, this is an individual thing. Every child, every person is different, so it's hard to make a blanket statement. But I've known in my life, and even personally, when if I'm doing something, and I'm so much better than everybody else, you kind of get, where's the motivation? Like shooting pool. In my little circle of the world, I was pretty much top dog. But in the scheme of life, no. I'm not going to go against some pro, but I justified it in my mind by like, well, I'm not going to turn pro. I don't need to play pros, so I'm okay where I'm at. But with your son, I would just, talk to him. You know him best. Just say, as good as you are, little Nico, you can be even better if you worked on your fitness, or worked on your sprints, or worked on your running. And it's true. It's not blowing smoke up his butt. He could, as good as he is now, he could be even much better if he just, geared it. And I think that's part of the problem in a lot of martial arts schools, or other sports that aren't necessarily like scholastic or team oriented, where you're competing against a big area, like in high school sports or something like that, or collegiate sports. Um, so, you need that coach that forces you to do these things. Okay. And if the coach isn't forcing the children nicely, when I say force, I don't mean abuse, but saying, hey, we got to work on our fitness. You've got to step it up. You've got to get better, got to get quicker, faster, stronger, whatever. If you don't have that tutor, that coach doing it, um, and you need to find a better coach. And I mean, it's got to be. I've taught at martial arts schools, and I've witnessed martial arts schools when they're doing their morning fit or their beginning fitness, and the beginning of the class, the warm ups, whatever. They're going through the motions, man. It's all bullshit. Let's do our jumping jacks. Let's do our push ups. It's a joke. Why bother? That any exercise that you do as a coach has to be competitive in a way. Okay. You've got to drive that athlete, your student athlete, to excel and get better. Okay. Every day doing 50 push-ups is not going to work. You've got to get them to do more and more and more intense and intense and intense in, properly, so nobody's getting injured. Otherwise, it's just, boring, mundane, and routine, and you're not going to get anywhere. Your body adapts quickly. So I'd start with that, Nico. That's my opinion anyway. And I'm not talking about your kid's instructor. I don't know your kid, so I'm not casting aspersions.
Yeah, I think that's you're absolutely right. Like make it competitive. Like for my son, he's anything that is like a game to him, he's super interested in it. Like the sparring, grappling, that's to him is like a game. But if you make him do push-ups and sit-ups, it's just so boring for him. And I think a lot of kids are like that. But I think what you said is key. Turn it into something competitive, something more. If you could turn it into something like more of like a game type of setting where they're getting fit, he'd be super interested. But I'm kind of out of ideas.
Yeah, well, I remember when I was in ninth grade, I went to an all boys school, and they had the gym class. We had the Penn State strength test, and we were. I mean, I was, just a skinny kid yet back then, and but I excelled at the sit-ups. I maxed out. Okay, I hit the 100 percentile on the sit-ups, which was cool. That made me feel good. But just the Penn State, now I'm not a Penn State fan. I'm an Ohio State fan, but just that name, we're freshmen in high school and we're doing some college strength test. It was psychological to me in a positive way. It's like, I want to do good. So when I failed in certain things, I talked to my coach. I'm like, hey, I got to get a little better with this. He's like, you will. You just got to give it time. Your body's got to, grow into it. And I don't remember. By the time I was certainly a sophomore, maybe a junior, I maxed out on all of it. So I felt really good. I was at a different school by then, but I did remember, how to, some of the things that I wanted to get to. But yeah, into like with this pandemic, a lot of people realize that their training isn't their life. And that's a good thing. I mean, for some people, training is their life, but others have found out it's not their life. And there's some people that just want to do it just for the enjoyment. They don't want to become the world's greatest athlete or the world's greatest fighter or anything like that. Or, they're just doing it sometimes for something to do, or the camaraderie, or this or that, or the getting out of the house, or whatever sense of well-being. And that's fine as well. And I think, again, as a coach, I need to know that. So I'm not expecting too much out of someone, or I'm pushing someone in the wrong direction, or I'm not lighting the fire enough. You have to be a psychologist when you're a coach. You have to be a counselor. You have to get to know somebody and really study them if you can, psychologically, to really get the most out of them, to help them become as good as they can become. Like myself, when I was a child, everyone knew that I needed to learn how to defend myself. Otherwise, I'd be dead. literally physically dead. So for me, it was quite easy for a coach, for anybody, what to hone in on that. And in retrospect, uh, I've known some now in retrospect teachers or coaches, not Rod Von Ries, but school people out of school. They didn't give two shits. I think now they could have been in a position to help me and other boys, and they chose not to. They just was oblivious. Um, not to say that I didn't have some great teachers. I did. One in particular, several, but one that I'll always, she'll always be my favorite teacher, my English teacher. But you know, yeah, you just have to, as a student, you have to also develop a relationship with your coach, your instructor, or whatever you want to call him, your sensei, by opening up to him or her and letting them know, listen, this is what I want. I want to achieve this and that. Can you help me get there? And keep the rapport going. And as an instructor, if you have 20 students in your class, it's a responsibility. Even if you're not doing private lessons, I feel that you should get to know each and every student as good as you can, as close as you can, to make them better. Isn't that what it's all about? I mean, it's about making your students, imparting your knowledge, and making sure that they can grasp it. Some will, some won't. Some will like it, some won't. Nothing personal by that. But yeah, it's more than just, hey, here, do this. It's more than that. It's complex. But I take this very seriously, and if I could, I would love to be able to help everybody that in the world, that wanted to get better. I wish I could, but obviously that's a pipe dream. But the other thing that I can tell you guys, because I know Joe longer than you, Nico, but I know you pretty well, Nico, is, I try to keep on letting you know about your potential, where you're at currently, and your potential, and that. When I see you, I'd be like, well, you're looking fit, or you're in shape, or you're looking, this and that. I try to give you positive, encouragement. And if you remember when you were going for the level 1 instructor before all this COVID thing, when we would do our monthly fitness tests, and you would either get better or you would get worse, but you had a goal to get better. Remember those?
I do. They're brutal.
They were brutal. And Joe and you both kept making improvements. Not in every event, but overall, everybody was getting better. And that's what I want to see. But it was never good enough. Okay, you did better than last month, but next month got to be better than this, blah, 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 blah. So that's just the way it needs to be. That's just the way it needs to be, in my opinion. You'll never get better by being complacent. And there's no such thing, like I said it before, as a guy who just had it all. Everybody who was talented and exceptional worked their butts off to get there, man. They certainly did. That I can attest to. This is nice when Joe's not talking, isn't it? God, it's almost like the reverse, like birds chirping in the morning. It psychs you up. Makes you have a great day, and the world is beautiful. And when you don't hear Joe's voice, it's like the same thing. And then
I see what you're doing there, Tony. So you want me to ask a question? I do have a recommendation, or actually kind of a suggestion. One of the things that when I was a kid that inspired me, and I don't know if your son's been exposed to that, but sometimes you'll see other athletes compete, whether it's on TV or even in the movies, and you'll see it and aspire to that. So I don't know, like, does he take in a lot of like sports on television, or does he, like, when you're watching the pros and adults do it, or like, to me, even now, like I'll watch on YouTube, they'll have some of the CrossFit games where you see these guys, doing these incredible things. And you realize, at a certain point, if he's, I don't know if he's come across things that might inspire him by just seeing others achieve. You know what I'm saying? You guys watch things like that, or?
Oh, my son's not interested in watching any of that.
No.
No, I think he's borderline like ADD, so he has a hard time focusing. But if you get him in an environment with other kids and you kind of, have more like a competitive setting, he's super focused. So he doesn't have a hard time. I think he has a hard time, getting his mind, getting himself engaged. But once he's engaged, then he can be very focused.
Yeah, everyone's different. It's an individual thing, Yeah, I've even as an adult, when I train adults, there's some guys that are easily motivated. There's others that aren't. I think as an adult, people have too many irons in the fire. I train some guys that train all these different guys or all these different styles. I'm sorry. That's a recipe for disaster, man. It's never, it doesn't work out that way, you have to, because you're going to get conflicting information. You're going to get conflicting, some people like that. They think, oh yeah, it's great. Variety is the spice of life. But, you know, I believe that if you find the right person, just like in a romance or something, you stay with this, and you make it happen. Um, yeah, you do have to cross train to a degree, a little bit, but man, some people just, they just overdo it. They just do, or they'll go to a seminar and then that'll be the, they're not going to retain what they learned in the seminar if they never see the guy again. It's kind of like going just to say you went. But our bodies and our mind, this is education. This isn't entertainment. You can go to get entertained by a variety of different, let's say, musical artists, because you're only there for the concert. You're there for that, let's say, 2-hour experience. But when you're training, this is not just a 2-hour experience. This is something that's supposed to change your life, and now you're supposed to go off in that direction and study it. And you just don't have enough time in the day to do this. If you're with 10 different instructors, and I'm not exaggerating, there's some people that do that. You can't, somebody's going to get the short end of the stick, one of the instructors. You cannot practice what they're teaching you. You're just never going to get well. You're just going to be piss poor because you can't do it. You can't have 10 people pulling you in different directions and having you dedicate the time that you need, to get there. It's common sense, but some people just don't seem to get that. And it's sad because some of the people that I've seen really do have potential to excel. They could be good if they would just focus on one instructor and get great at that. No. So on a lighter note, to change things around, I've been helping my one friend. His girlfriend officially moved in now. They were kind of unofficially living together. And yeah, that's kind of interesting. I'm wondering and optimistic that, this relationship will go forward. They've been together for about 1.5 years or so. And many people who watched my Facebook videos through the years knows this gentleman I always talk about from out here. His name is Scott. And some of you know him when he was going through his health issues, and he's got COPD really badly now, and real badly. And I hope that he can get, better with that. It's very difficult. He can't lift furniture. He can't do anything. He can't breathe. If things don't change, he's going to be on oxygen, and that's not good. He was on my pool team, and we used to shoot pool together and all of that. And Navy guy, submariner, man. He was on submarines. Boy, I couldn't do that. And he was a champion swimmer in school. So the guy, used to know how to. He was like a dolphin. He was like the man from Atlantis. You're too young for that, Nico. You probably don't remember that TV show, Patrick Duffy.
No, I've never seen it.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, Joe probably remembers it, although Joe was probably a kid when it came out, real young. Remember that show?
Just barely. I kind of remember the intro of him swimming around.
Yeah, he kind of did a flippy, weird.
Exactly. He did kind of I can't forget what that, I think it's the dolphin kick, basically, like you said.
Probably. Yeah. So other than that, yeah, just I guess I'm getting prepared for the change of weather, and yeah, just hoping to start eventually going back to training people in person over here, which just we're not nobody's really doing it, not that much, not to any big degree. I'm not doing it at all, but trying to still open up for the Tri-C people. If anybody wants to sign up for that, that's good because we can still do the distance learning. Somebody made a post about that on our Facebook the other day, last week, something, and he was looking for instructors or catch wrestling where he lived, and there isn't anyone. And well, your only hope is the Tri-C program. I mean, there's nothing I can do, and I try to let people know that it's not learning. He mentioned something about learning from video. It's not learning from video per se. It's live. It's like this, where I can watch you, and it's one-on-one. It's not just here's videos that I made 20 years ago. Now do them. Yes, you do get my videos, but it's as close as you can get to training with me. That and as I mentioned, the Tri-C program, you can come out here and train, stay with me and work out with Joe or Nico or whomever, and me, and whoever else, once the COVID thing calms down. But in the interim, we can do the distance learning, and that's key. I wish this technology existed when I was young. Not just for fighting, but music. I wish it was available to me. I'm sure a lot of people wish it was available. I remember Buddy DeFranco, who was considered for years the world's greatest jazz clarinetist. And then there was another great guy, Eddie Daniels. But, Buddy DeFranco used to do college tours. He would perform and give master classes, lectures. And he's like, the amount of knowledge out there now, you guys are all better than us, because you have all the access to learning, music minus one tapes and stuff where you could play along, and, stuff that's already transcribed. Back in the old days, they'd have to play the records and they'd have to transcribe the solos themselves, which is good. But now when you can get all the solos in a book, you don't have to waste time transcribing. You can just start playing. Yeah, videos, this, that, whatever. And, as long as you don't start trying to learn from 30, 40 different people all the time, people, we're living in an era where there's overabundance of knowledge. Sometimes it's information overload, but for those people that are interested in learning, myself and maybe there's others out there that are offering these Zoom classes or distance learning, and in a way, it probably, like I said, I've been doing it for years and years, long before the COVID, and maybe it should have been, others should have been doing it as well if they weren't. Like even like a morning meditation class. Think about that, like live, okay, like 5 o'clock in the morning or something, and get like 10 people on Zoom or whatever, the Skype or something, and just, meditate or check in every morning or 3 days a week, get a group like us, but more, 5, 6, 10 guys, and say, hey, well, how's things going? Just a little, motivation thing. That would be, that'd be good. The thing is, people say, yeah, that sounds good. But then, do they follow through with it? Do they follow up on it? But I think that's something that needs to be done. I used to send out daily audio stuff privately to, like, when I had an old phone, but this is long before we could do this video stuff. And, I wish that we could do stuff like that. That would be kind of nice. Even if it was once a week, it doesn't have to be every day necessarily, but, So what do you have to say about things in general, Joe?
Well, I was thinking about what you were saying about the amount of knowledge that's accessible to everyone really now. I mean, but it is kind of a double-edged sword too, because there's also a lot of access to bad information. You can find good information or bad information just as easily. And unfortunately, I mean, it is definitely a sea of stuff to wade through. So I think the individual or the person has to be discerning. And I mean, hopefully, comparing and contrasting information will help them find kind of the truth out there. Um, and once you find what you want or what you think is good, you have access to it. There's a lot more mechanisms to get to it. But I do also feel that with unfortunately, everybody can put information out there now and kind of mislead people sometimes too.
Yep. And that's a big thing. And a lot of people can't discern, and it's not a shot on them. They don't have enough knowledge to discern. Okay. Like take pool. Now, this is not to disparage trick shot artists because they're very talented in what they do. And some trick shot artists can shoot pretty good pool, competitive pool. But generally speaking, they're not world champion pool players. Okay. I know Mike Massey. I'm not trying, I'm talking in general here. So you can get somebody who doesn't know a whole lot about pool, can watch, Shane Van Boning, who's like generally considered the best in the world, play, and you might not think much. Matter of fact, you'll think the opposite. He's not that good. I can do everything he does. All of his shots are easy. They're all straight in shots. Yeah, that's because he's that damn good. He can get the cue ball where it needs to be. Where they'll watch a trick shot artist make all these fancy, incredible things, and you're like, oh my God, that guy's so great. No. And that's what happens in like the fight related or martial arts. You see, I always tell people, if it looks pretty and it looks easy, it's junk. When somebody shows something flashy and all flamboyant, this is not how a real fight goes down. It doesn't work that way. Okay. It's not all this ooh and ah stuff or this, real, it's fighting is by nature is ugly. It's just not a beautiful thing. And you're right. In the perfect world, Joe, it would be nice if people can discern, but they can't many times. Like even, I don't want to mention names, but some of the people that we've trained, they'll say, hey, I saw this guy on YouTube do this. Look at this. What do you think, Tony? And you've been there. You've seen me do it. I'm like, it's not that good. Let me show you how you can easily counter it in seconds. I've never seen the move before. Don't need to know how he does it. It's just not good, but that's just how it is. And it's a shame, but it's not just about martial arts. It's everything. People don't know. Another bad thing in a way are these reviews. Like you could, like say you're shopping for a television, you get 30 people bragging, the greatest TV in the world, 30 people saying this is junk. It's no good. You don't know what to believe. You don't know. Critical thinking skills aren't there, it seems anymore. So yeah, information. I can tell you this. I quit watching videos years ago, instructional videos, because very few were good. Most of them were just, bad info. So I don't watch it. But even with music, if it's a guy that I never heard of, just an average person, I'll click on YouTube to watch a music video, and again, the majority of the time, it's not very good, and it seems, and I've read some of the comments, and it's so true. It's like these guys that aren't very good, they get like these rave reviews, all these people bragging about them, and they're just not that good. And then someone will mention somebody who's truly a legendary guitarist or something, whatever, drummer, and they get bashed. It's I think a lot of it is, and I've said this before, when you look at let's talk about fighting. When you look at some of these guys, they're not like earth shattering. They're really not. Some of them are just, they look like average guys. And that's, people kind of gravitate towards that because they can sit there and say, hey, I can do that. I can do that. But when you look back at like Mike Tyson, let's say when he was in his prime, strictly in coming from a boxing thing, you're like, oh my God, this guy's, it's phenomenal. And so that's what happens a lot. Many times people will gravitate towards that guy that just, he's not that good. He's all right, but they in their mind will make it out like he's that great because they can relate to, like, it's attainable what that guy does. Okay. As opposed to somebody else, so I think that has a lot to do with it too, So that's my, my belief. Like with me with music, I've always been the opposite. Or athletics, I've looked for the outlier. I looked for the guy that was just so over the top, unattainable, like Buddy Rich. And I aspired to be Buddy Rich, or with Rod Von, or just his incredible strength, or just whatever. I've always wanted to go after the guys that were the absolute best, and that's what I aspired. Even if I didn't want to like attain it, just like guitars. I'm not a guitar player at all, but I want to listen to like the world's like George Benson and guys like that. Lenny Bro, and you name it, on and on and on. I want to listen to these guys that just blow me away. Technically Glenn Campbell could play a lot of guitar. So, but I think years and years ago, I learned how to learn. Okay. That was the biggest thing. I learned how to learn, and I was able to weed out the flashy showman, like, Liberace on piano, who had a lot of technique, don't get me wrong. And he always performed and this and that, and he was marvelous, but he wasn't the world's greatest pianist, right? He wasn't, at concert level. He couldn't play jazz and everything like that. But in the martial art world, you have a lot of Liberaces, flashy, flamboyant, can talk good. But under crunch time, they're soloists. They're like Liberace. They can show off on their own. But get them in the situation, how will they do? Like you get Liberace in a great, big band or jazz ensemble, he is not going to handle it. Put him in a chamber orchestra, or not a chamber orchestra, but a symphony orchestra, he's not going to handle it. If he's not the soloist, he's not going to handle it. So that's what happens here in a lot of martial arts. And I'm sure in other things too, in other sports as well, or other endeavors as well that I don't follow. I'm sure you got that same element hanging out there too.
Yeah, I think with all the abundance of information, I think that's an important part of learning, is just eliminating a lot, and like Bruce Lee said, take what's useful and eliminate the rest. I think that's probably the hardest part in this technology age, is focusing and eliminating, what is not useful to you.
Yeah. And it's very, it's very difficult to do that. We all want to be entertained, for sure. We want to enjoy what we're doing. And sadly, man, sometimes training, like you said earlier today about your fitness thing, when I put you through it, is brutal. Some people can't get jazzed up about that. They don't want it brutal. They want it to be fun and games, which is okay. Yeah, it's okay. Okay. But you're never going to reach never going to reach the highest level, man. Or your potential. Competition is a tricky thing, because you know what? You can win and win and win and win and win. Does that mean you're the best in the world? Well, what it means is you're better than the guys you fought. Think about it. If you have a record of 25-0, well, you've beaten 25 guys. There's 7 billion people in the world. And I've always strived to be the best. I want to beat myself all the time, every day, week by week, month by month, year by year. I want to beat me. I want to be better than I was. I want to keep reaching for the stars, because I could beat you, let's say, in a fight, or maybe I have a mistake, I slip or I sneeze or something happens, or I don't feel good and somebody gets you. It's a fluke. But that happens to people. But are you better than you can be? Are you as good as you can be? Forget about being the best even in the world. Are you the best that you can be? And I don't know that a lot of people can say that. I mean, yeah, the pros, the like the football players, NBA All-Stars and Hall of Famers, I'm sure that, they were damn near close to their capacity. How many lay people, that that aren't doing it for a living, or even some that are professional athletes, how many can everyone say they're as good as they could have been? I mean, you really don't know. Was I as good as I could have been? Who knows? I mean, I'm sure I could have been better. I mean, you just don't know. I mean, I'm proud of what I did. I'm proud of where I was, but probably could have been better. Who knows? So I think that's the key there, But isn't it? It's a lot easier now to just click a mouse, click mouse thing, watch a YouTube video. All of a sudden, you're going to watch it for 5 minutes. Now it's 45 minutes later. You're watching this video, that video, that video. Where's it gotten you? Oohed and awed, maybe, But that's 45 minutes you could have spent in the gym or under the tutelage of a guy who could have said, here, I can show you what you need to do in 10 minutes. Now practice the next 35 minutes, So there's your 45 minutes. You accomplish something. That's just me.
Yeah, it seems like that's the harder route, and a lot of people just want to do what's easy. Be watching a bunch of random videos. It's easy and comfortable, but a lot of people, it's hard to get out of your comfort zone. But that's where the actual growth happens.
Yeah, and fighting is all about getting your opponent out of their comfort zone. Okay, I mean, if when I'm fighting or training someone to fight, I want that person that I'm going up against to be completely uncomfortable, completely concerned, completely paranoid and frightened. And yeah, it's all about that comfort zone. That's a good word, and you have to get out of your own comfort zone to know how to get back in it. You have to have that homing device. You have to know what it's like. You asked me last week, or you weren't here last week, but the week before or whenever, about getting that adrenaline and getting that sense of realism in training. Well, get out of your damn comfort zone. If you're always in your comfort zone in your training, then you're not simulating real life, because I don't care who the hell you are. When it comes crunch time and you're facing a knife, a gun, or just whatever, a potentially deadly situation, don't tell me you're comfortable. Okay. You may be focused. Okay. But you're out of your comfort zone. And if facing a gun every single day of your life is part of your comfort zone, then I don't know. You need to talk to you don't need to train with me or anybody else. I think you need to train with a, psychotherapist or something. But I'm telling you, comfort zone is what it's all about. And in part of your training, you have to get out of your damn comfort zone. Let me tell you, I never really enjoyed working out, lifting weights and everything like that. I was very happy when I was done, and I was pleased with my progress. But many times, not all the time, but many times I dreaded going and doing it. But I took that as a challenge. How can I make something I'm not really thrilled about happy? Because I trained a lot. I worked out. I lifted a lot alone. Okay. It wasn't like I had a training partner. I did with Kevin, but not always, because he was working. And our schedules sometimes conflicted. Or I was teaching guys at night and he would be lifting while I'm teaching, because just because of schedules. So some of this cannot, not everything can be on the coach. Some of it you have to be self-motivated. But yet the coach still has to intercede. And I've told people, hey, stop looking at books for a while. Stop watching these YouTube videos for a while. Pay attention to what I'm telling you. And you're going to blow away all these YouTube instructors. You're going to be way beyond them in 1 year if you just focus, and that's, that's the way it is, and it's, it's different in music in a way, because music can give you inspiration. You can listen for ideas. And many times these musicians are very sound. They're pros. They've studied, they've played at a high level. And that's what we're harking back to what Joe said. Some of the instructors, not everybody on YouTube, but many of them are they're not there. They're not at that level where they really even should be giving advice to anyone, because it's just not, sound. And that's just not in fighting. That's just in other things that I've seen. I've watched people make how-to videos on working on cars or just whatever it is, and man, I'm like, Jesus, what this guy's doing is not right, man. It's dangerous. It's improper. So you have that out there, man. You gotta weed through it, you know. So yeah, we're going off on a tangent here, but here's the one thing, like let's say Joe, if he would ever become a certified instructor under me, one of the things he could tell his students is, look, if you don't do this, I'm going to force you to eat a cheesesteak. Okay. I'm going to buy you a one-way ticket to Camden, New Jersey. I mean, these are the things that Joe would probably use as an inspiration, right? And then if they do good, well, here's an Italian beef. The hell with the black belt. Nobody wants a black belt anymore. Just give me an Italian beef. Right, Joe?
That would be my choice, absolutely. Really, yeah, using cheese whiz as a motivator, I think, has always worked. It's just kind of a universal human tool, if you will.
Well, you've offended over 2 million people, just so you know this, right? Just I want to know where we're, just so you know where we're going with this. Yeah. So yeah, I'm just, told you, I'm getting prepared for fall and winter NFL today. And I really, you know what, guys, I'm not cranked about, I've been watching the NBA. I'm not cranked about baseball, and everyone knows that's my favorite sport to watch. My Indians are in third. I think the season is ridiculous. The NBA at least played the majority of their season before the COVID hit. Okay. So I get why they're having the playoffs. But the NFL, let's just see how this plays out. Obviously I'm a diehard Browns fan, and I always want Cleveland to do well. But I'm just not excited about opening day. That's sad.
I heard an interesting thing about baseball and I am not following it at all, but they changed the rules for extra innings now, where they put a runner on second base after. I don't know if it's right away or.
Yes.
It sounded interesting.
Yeah, and they had some 7-inning games. It's not baseball anymore. And the thing is, baseball, what people don't realize maybe in America, that is the most documented sport in American history. We have statistics from 1920, for the most part, complete stats, where home run balls landed in the seats and all of that jazz. Okay, it's amazing, the stats. Now everything is skewed. Okay, everything is it just doesn't matter. Okay, the guy that's starting on second base, for example, if he gets, the batter gets a hit, he scores. That's an RBI for the batter. That's a run scored for the runner. These are artificially inflated numbers. They're not. This is a joke to me. I don't get it. Just like with the steroids, with the home run thing, all of those statistics. I don't follow those stats. I'm sorry. To me, the home run champ right now is Henry Aaron. Okay, the single season in 154 games is Babe Ruth. In the extended season, 162 games, it's Roger Maris. That's how I look at it, and I'm not alone in that. I know a lot of purists that look at it the same way. But what they're doing now is they're just altering the rules, which I can't believe it. I just can't.
Isn't some of that inevitable though, kind of in all sports, like in basketball? Obviously, that for a long time there was no, 3-point shot, and that changed people's scoring ability and shot clocks. So sports do change over time, and you always have to take records and statistics in context. Like in baseball, for a while there was a color line, right? So someone maybe had a certain, you know, statistics or a certain era, but was he playing in the best league that was possible? Probably not. Who knows? I don't know. But it just seems like comparing one era against another, and I think that's kind of, I've heard that often throughout. It's very hard to do that. because yeah, rules change, society changes, and things like that. And yeah, obviously in the modern era, where it seems like it'd be hard pressed to find any professional athlete, I would be surprised that are not using some type of enhancing drug. You know, you can't compare what they're achieving now to what guys were doing in the past.
Well, but what baseball's doing now goes against the fundamental tenets of the game. Okay. 3-point shot, for example, that's not necessarily a game alterer. Okay. Let me explain. You have 48 minutes where both teams can score a 3-point shot. Whereas with this runner on extra on the in the extra innings, you know, all it takes is a wild pitch or a pass ball to put that runner at third now all of a sudden, and the sac fly will score the guy. Okay. It's you know, and yes, I get it. The opposing team has a chance with a runner at second as well, but that's just mind boggling to me that you would put somebody in a scoring position. You know, I mean, the only thing that I could equate that to in the NBA would be to allow somebody to stand underneath the opposing basket unguarded, and you inbound, you can throw them the basketball for, you know, unblocked, undefended, and let them attempt the layup. I mean, it's just, to me, it's ridiculous. I don't know, but baseball has made changes through the years. You know, with the, like, for example, the height of the mound, or, you know, expansion teams or designated hitter, or this or that. You know, mound visits, time, you know, the collisions at home plate, things like that. They've made changes through the years, Joe. Back in Babe Ruth's day, if a ball passed the home run fence but curved foul, it was considered a foul ball. Not nowadays, no. Once it passes that fence, it's a home run. All balls that bounced into, you know, before the ground rule double, you could bounce it and get a home run. Babe Ruth never had one of those, by the way. All of his home runs were legit. He actually got robbed of a few. So, yeah, I get it. Time marches on, but I mean, you got to be careful of how you make these changes. I mean, to me, I'm opposed to it. I'm sorry, but I am. Now, somebody else may say, no, it's good for the game. It speeds it up, probably. That's what people like. They think baseball tends to be a little boring. I think it's a unique. It's like the Old West. It's a one-on-one pitcher against the batter. Yet you have all the other players defensively. You have 8 other players there that have a say in it. It's kind of unique. I don't know every sport in the world, but that's what I find fascinating. You know, is that pitcher versus batter, that one-on-one in a way. That's just, you know, it's something that's always intrigued me. And they call them the boys of summer. It just was growing up in Cleveland, like you did here in the Midwest with the harsh winters and so on, man. You know, baseball, spring training just was a sign of summer to me. You know, maybe if I was raised in Florida or California or something, it wouldn't mean that much, because you got nice weather year round. You have nice weather almost all the time. And there's just something historic about baseball. I mean, baseball, to what I know, was like the first true major sport that survived. You know, you didn't even have NFL. You had college football, but you didn't have the NFL till the 20s. You know, just, you didn't have basketball. You didn't even have hockey. You know, you just had baseball, you know, as a team sport. I love it.
Yeah, football always to me meant like having fun in the cold weather and in the snow.
Yeah, me too. You know, that's the bittersweet part of it, because I loved nothing more than to play football. That was my sport to play. I loved all kinds of football, tackle football, flag football, touch football. And I loved, though, to play football all year round, especially in the nicer weather. For me, it's football, man, it's a nice game to play in the spring or in the fall when it's cool out, you know. Yeah, and that's, I think, another thing about baseball. I mean, I told you guys many times I had the speed. I always thought, shit, I could play NFL football. I'm fast enough to play NFL football. But baseball, I knew I wasn't good enough. I couldn't hit. I could catch anything. I could field, but I just Wasn't a hitter. I couldn't get, I just couldn't do it at a high level. I knew I couldn't do it. So it fascinated me that, how the difficulty of it, as opposed to, for me, NFL football just was, a lot easier to do. Now, I was pretty good at softball, but that's a whole different game than baseball. But and basketball, I played. I never played soccer. I mean, I think I had to do it in gym class once or something. But I'm not. I have respect for those guys. But it's just something that I wasn't raised on. So I'm not a. And I never was even on skates, so I never played hockey. So I'm not a big hockey fan. For a while there, Cleveland didn't even have a team when I was growing up. We had the Cleveland Crusaders and the Cleveland Barons were another team that we had. So yeah, I just never got it, and they were rarely on television. So I never got it. So I never followed hockey.
I think the running game in football is maybe one of the most purely demonstrations of athleticism that there is. Something about the having to run and evade, instead of just running in a straight line, but literally running and interacting with a field of people, uninhibited. You don't need to dribble or you don't need to kick the ball. You're just holding it and having to run and jump and evade. It seems very, to me, primal, just like kids playing tag. It's one of the more, like an animal evading a predator or whatnot. It just, to me, watching that and seeing like a great running back make it down the field, to me, is still one of the most exhilarating things to watch. There's not many sports that have that, honestly, and at least in its pure form like that. I love watching that.
Yeah, me too, Joe.
The way you bash cities that you visit, I can envision you running and evading and, groups of men. Yeah, Joe, no wonder you like football. I did play running back a little bit, but I was basically a wide receiver and a rover back, which is like a free safety, because, just to utilize the speed. But you're right. I love that. I loved running, and evading, and movement. I loved football. I mean, I'll always love football, but just something about. For a while, I got turned off by the jubilance, the celebration during the NFL games for routine plays. That kind of ticks me off, just like hockey. I don't like hockey fights. I loved watching Olympic hockey because they didn't allow any of the fights. So things like that, kind of just disturb me. But yeah, I don't mind celebrating when you score a touchdown, but sometimes, man, just routine plays. I remember a few years ago, Joe, I don't remember the the player for the Bears, but he sacked somebody in a meaningless game. The Bears were out of it. They couldn't win the game. And he just did some celebration dance and he blew his knee out. This was not that long ago, maybe 7, 8 years ago. I'm like, geez, my God. So yeah, for a while there, I was getting turned off by all of that jazz, but I still love football. And for some reason, football is like a party sport. It's nice to get with the group of guys. I used to go out Sunday mornings and or afternoon, noon, and just watch the game with the guys out here. Even in Cleveland, that I miss. Cleveland was 1:00 because it's Eastern time. Out here was 12:00. And I miss that. Even though I'm not a Bears fan, I'd still like to watch the games with the guys, and I'll pull for them, unless they're playing the Browns, then I wouldn't pull for the Bears. But or you can go to a sports bar where they have all the games, which was fun, for me. But that's not out here, not where I live now. That's a faded memory. But so what are your plans this week, Nico? You got anything coming up?
Just gonna see how the inspection went and what I gotta do from there. So, but I've been working a lot of hours. It's been hard to find any time to do anything.
For those that don't know, Nico had an offer on his house, so now it has to get inspected. We were talking about this before the podcast started. For me, I just have a little more to do around here as far as painting and cleaning and whatever. Not cleaning, but redecorating, and I should be done. If not today, then tomorrow. But tomorrow is my garbage day, so I want to get anything else that I'm going to throw out. I want at least out, and we'll see what I can do. But I do want to watch some football. What about you, Joe?
Well, I've been looking at the weather. It looks like this week is going to be sunny. So I'm looking. This whole past week was just rainy and gray and depressing, and so I'm looking definitely. Actually, after we do this podcast, maybe this afternoon, trying to get out on my bike a little bit, try and make do. We've only got a few more weeks of decent weather probably, so I want to be outside as much as possible. Try and get my cardio in that way. Take advantage of it, because sometime in October it's just going to be too cold for doing that kind of workouts. I mean, there'll be other things that can be done outside, but my big thing is to try and take advantage of the outside while I can.
Cool. Well, I got to cut the grass, but that's going to wait till tomorrow. As I said, I got to finish up in the basement here, and then things have this week is things have changed with my mom, so there's a lot just more with me, responsibilities with the pills and the doctor's trips and appointments, and that 2 days this past week, I was with her at various doctor's appointments, and so that pretty much ties up at least half a day. And it's it's just difficult, but I'll get through it, and everybody will get through their thing. But for me, I'm just looking forward to finishing this place up and then just chilling out, calming down, relaxing, and and yeah, I miss you guys. I wish you guys were still able to come out and train. I even just to come out, just to hang out or meet up. I've been keeping my weight down though. My weight's fine. Before the COVID all started, I'd fluctuate, but 217 to 219. Today I weighed in at 218. The other day I was 217. I'm glad with that. To keep your weight down, so you don't have to, fight that losing 15, 20 pounds or 10 pounds or whatever some people gain. So that's kind of good. But I've got to get working on sleep. I don't sleep. I just, like today I was up at 2:30. And every day it's just, something. I don't get much sleep. And that's kind of disturbing me because it's showing on me, and it's, physically, mentally, you get worn out, can't think clearly. And I get, I seem like I'm going. I don't want to catch mono. I just keep on running myself ragged. I got so much to do.
So do you have a hard time staying asleep, or is
Yeah.
it always something that you got to do that wakes you up?
Yeah, no, I fall asleep, no problem. I just can't stay asleep. And once I wake up, I'm up full blast, and that's it. And, rarely, I mean, sometimes I toss and turn. Now that's different. But then when I wake up, I know I'm up. Okay, that's it. I know it. And, it's just, it's just difficult, and this has been going on for years. This is nothing new, but it's been going on for years, but it's getting worse. To, like I said, now it's like when I see that it's 3:00 in the morning or 3:30, let's say if it's 3:30, I feel good. I'm like, wow, all right, oh, that's cool, man. I slept until 3:30. Then I'm ready to go. That's sick. The other day, I went to bed at 10. I got up at 12:30. I couldn't go back to sleep. And I stayed up until like 9:00 that night, and then I got up at 2 or 2:30 the next day. I mean, it's just, I'm going on, 4 to 5 hours of sleep and sometimes less, but I'm averaging on a good night 5 hours of sleep. And that's not, I got new pillows, which actually are good. But nothing, it's just nothing's happening. So I remember years ago, some doctors put me on different like sleeping pills. They weren't working. And I'm like, look, I don't have a problem falling asleep. I don't need, like Secondals or something. I don't know what they put me on. I have no idea. I don't need to fall asleep. I can do that on my own. I just need something that is going to keep me asleep. And I don't like taking pills. I'm on no meds. The only time I take anything is if I'm in pain. I'll take a Tylenol or Advil or something. But if I could, Joe's wife bought me stuff, and I chew on those. I still have them, some, and but it's nothing seems to be making, nothing's working. But oh well.
How about a little bit of red wine?
I actually, you know what? I'm allergic to wine, but I do have some. I do actually have a bottle of red wine. I could try that, and maybe I should, because that's actually Lou Thez is the one who told me to drink wine, because I never did because of my allergies.
So are you allergic just to the grape, or is it yeast?
The preservatives in it. If it's homemade Italian wine, I could drink it no problem. I've done it.
I get wine out here straight from the vineyard. No preservatives, no nothing, just all natural. And I could get out here. They have a place that makes wine from all different fruits. They have an orchard, so they have like peach, apple, blueberries, blackberries, all different kinds. It's phenomenal.
Never had any of that, but I could drink grape wine. I mean, that's what but not those preservatives. That's what does it. And I'm not alone in that. I guess it's more common than people, that many people think. But I get hospitalization type of headaches where I got to go to the emergency room. Okay, this isn't just like, oh, you get a hangover. And I'm talking about so now I can drink any wine on planet Earth within reason, but not a whole glass, maybe just a little bit. So I would like to be able to have a full glass of wine at night. I think that would be good. Like Lou Thez said to me years ago, that'll help your blood, your heart, and everything else. But I'm leery. I don't need the headache.
Yeah, I'm sensitive to the chemicals as well, but not like you, but I notice it right away, like especially the next day. Even if I drink like 1 ounce, 2 ounces, I'd feel like crap. Got a terrible headache. Just feel like crap if there's any kind of chemicals in it. But I could get you a good bottle from over here.
I'd like to try it, Nico. Yeah, let me know, because if it'll help, I'll do it. I was told years ago that you could buy wine with no sulfates or sulfites. I think it's sulfates, no preservatives, but I've not been able to find that. But
there's one that I have bought at Aldi that doesn't affect me at all. It's a Malbec, and it's cheap. It's only like $7 a bottle, but it's fantastic.
What's it?
I'll have to find the name of it, but it's a Malbec. It's from Argentina, and I think it's their only Malbec that they have at Aldi's.
Well, there's an Aldi's by me. That's about it, but that's about 15 minutes or so away. I could check it out, but I don't want to get the wrong stuff, because it's just somebody gave me a bottle, and then somebody else left the bottle here because I didn't have a corkscrew. I couldn't open it. So that's another thing. I got to get a corkscrew. I don't drink, so I don't drink wine, so I don't need a corkscrew, I guess. I have one somewhere, but things mysteriously change and move around over here. But so yeah, I guess that's about it today. Our podcast looks like, I'm looking at the clock, it looks like it's pretty much winding down. But I'm glad to see you back, Nico. We missed you last week.
Hey, good to see you guys.
Yeah.
Definitely a good talk.
Oh yeah, we covered a lot of tech talk, I guess. And man, maybe next week we can talk about some happy thoughts, because we're winding down September, man. We're going to be we're in the middle of the month pretty much. Yeah, boy, where did this this summer is gone, and well, yeah. But I want to thank you guys. I appreciate you guys, being on here again. And, is that a magazine rack behind you there, Joe? Like a comic book rack or something?
Yeah, that's my comic book rack, one of my prized possessions. My kids got it for me for Christmas, so I'm always showing off some of my collection in the background. So,
yeah, nice. Well, I want to, like I say, I want to thank you guys, and good luck with that home sale, Nico. I hope it goes through, and I hope everything comes out financially in your benefit. I'm sure the new owners will love your house, and they'll put their touches on it. And, it's always an exciting time that, I guess to buy a house, right? I don't know. But, and it's probably a great time for you to sell and look for a new house.
Yeah, absolutely. I think now's the time if I'm going to do it. I don't think the market's going to get any better. So right now is the time. But thank you.
Yeah. Well, what are your I'll let you run the closing thoughts there before we run our closing credits there, Giuseppe.
Oh, geez. Well, if you're in Philadelphia, definitely get the cheesesteak. I highly recommend it. It's a great town. I can't wait to go back. Hopefully, I can spend more time there. Definitely take the historical tours. Like I said, it's just one of the great places in America. Really, we've got great places here to explore. You'll never run out of places to look at and check out in this country. So take that as my closing thoughts. And yeah, everybody get some good red wine.
Yeah. See you guys next week.
See you guys.